Hi again, everybody. This is Frequency Bone Summer Music Connection 10, The Art of the Student, Video 6. And I'm calling this maybe an extra. Um, the reason why I'm going to focus on influence. And we'll have to see whether this leads. It's definitely related to the art of the student, or what are the inner arts of the student that eventually, if the music is one of the person's lifelong interests, how influence directs their art. There's so many different kinds of influence. And this video was inspired by a doctorate student that wrote me. His name's Curtis. And it was a very in-depth email. And I really appreciated it very, very much. And I got his permission to say his name, and I'm just going to leave it like that. His name's Curtis. He's a doctorate student. And what I'm going to do is read a little bit of his email to me, because it concerned, the matter of his email concerned a video that he saw of two people talking about why they think that the differences in players, and I think they were mostly speaking of, trombone players, but it could have expanded easily, why they sound more and more the same. And it's a great question. Why are players throughout the world sounding more and more the same? And you could say that, and I talked about it on other videos, that orchestras are sounding more and more the same. And it's easy to see, first of all, right away in our current times, social media. Social media just spreads literally all over the world, as we know, in a matter of seconds. And so people have at their fingertips a vast, vast amount of lessons, master classes, interviews, recordings, pedagogical videos, and all this stuff. A person could spend now the rest of their life trying to listen to everyone and what they had to say, people who have something up on social media and YouTube and Facebook, and people are offering this course they can take online and that one and that one. And I think it's a fantastic resource. And that gives a lot of viewpoints. And it also could, on another level, create a lot of confusion. And I've dealt with people before who have been confused. Well, this one said this, and this one said this, and they seem to be almost opposite. Well, that should prove everyone is unique. And the serious student, one of the arts, is they will take the time, because they're so interested and move deeply in their art, to discover what they personally need. And it doesn't happen with the click of a mouse or turn on this master class. Someone might say something in a master class that acts as a trigger, and that pulls a lot of various things you've been thinking about and collecting. Maybe someone will say something that pulls it all together. Someone can say something one way, and someone can say it another way, and one of the ways will catch you more than the other way. So people then can take advantage of all this, I guess, right? And either drown in it, which is not the good way to take advantage of it, get confused, or just take it in and see what really sticks with you. And experiment with things. If you don't want to be too confused, and you're a young student, then be under the guidance of your good teacher. Okay? Until it's such a point that you feel that you can expand out and listen and hear and absorb some other ideas. So let's go to Curtis's email for a second, okay? So about this difference in style that's been, used to be very, very clear. You could hear someone from Italy, France, Russia, right? Different parts of the United States would sound very, very different. People playing on different horns, people have different approaches to articulation, tone, even rhythm. We think that rhythm is such one of those, rhythm, pitch, and timbre, mostly rhythm and pitch, are like, who's going to argue about those? Well, people do. All the time. And that's a subject in itself. And I've addressed it on several other videos. But getting back to this main point, what are the differences? They used to be so distinct, and now it seems like more and more people are sounding the same. And I guess one of the things with this video is that people were saying the reason this interview, when they were talking, saying that, well, people are sounding closer and closer to each other, no matter where they are in the world, because of better technique getting better, whether it's slide technique or your air production, and articulation, and how your sound's influenced by all this. So people are sounding more and more the same. But people also are attracted to certain types of players that make themselves more known too. And they get influenced by it. Think of all the food places, now this is my interjection, that you can go to a place and it's like, they'll just say Asian, and you can get Chinese, Japanese, and all the different kinds of Chinese, and Japanese, and Vietnamese, and Korean, and they mix things together. So this is an age where all the influences start mixing with each other and creating slightly different cuisines out of all the things that are being mixed. So that's an interesting thing. And you can see this could lead into all different aspects of life, all the mixing that's happening. So, the person said certain things were leaving them a bit disturbed for a few days. Curtis was saying, and he said, he asked a question, is it possible to develop great technique without becoming the same as everyone else? Well, to answer that one, I would say, first of all, what is great technique? What is great technique? And then he said, I feel there is something important missing here. What about the differences in vibrato, variety of articulation, rubato, differences in equipment? uh, because all that does come into play. And then he said, he quoted this book, Great Pianists on Piano Playing by James Francis Cook. And he picked a section where this great pianist named Harold Bauer, 20th century, 19th century to 20th century pianist, great chamber music player, played a lot of Brahms, very, very sensitive player. And here's this quote from pianist Harold Bauer from this book. Quote, "I could see no reason for limiting tone production to a certain kind of sound that was called a good tone, since the expression of feeling necessarily demands, in many cases, the use of relatively harsh sounds. Moreover, I could see no reason for trying to overcome what are generally called natural defects." And here he was talking about the pianist's fourth finger, which sometimes isn't as strong as the other fingers. And he was wondering, instead of spending so much time just trying to make it match identical to the other ones, maybe there was a reason or a place for the fact that they're not all evenly the same. Maybe that would have something to do with the contour of the music. He then goes on in his quote to say, it is differences that count in art, not similarities. Every individual expression is a form of art. Why not, then, make an artist of each finger by cultivating its special aptitudes instead of adapting a system of training deliberately calculated to destroy these individual characteristics and bringing all the fingers to a common level of lifeless machines? So I'm sure you could all find this book, Greater Pianists on Piano Playing by James Francis Cook. And Cook is spelled C-O-O-K-E. And then Curtis goes on to say another quote that comes to mind is a quote from Dr. Carol Vieira that you quoted in one of your videos. And she said, "Music will never try to annihilate technique, but technique, as an end in itself, will always try to crowd music out." So that is an extraordinary quote. And she says just marvelous things on a daily basis, believe me. And I think it's important for the student and the teacher to think about these things. I did a whole series last year, I believe, on authenticity. I understand people want to get a job. And that also makes people sound more similar, especially if the styles, even in one country like the United States, are sounding more and more similar. You could tell a West Coast player. You could tell someone who's Chicago trained. You could tell someone who was trained by people in New York, whether they're from the Met, the teachers were from the Met or from the Philharmonic at one time, years back. People were playing different. You could tell Eastman players. So why do we feel that because there's maybe a couple of really great players people love to look up to, everyone should sound like that? I think it's important to ask yourself, does that way naturally fit you? No matter how impressed with it. Is everyone meant to have a certain kind of thick, heavy sound? John Swallow used to say, your sound, he used to say to me, okay, that's the sound. And it used to be very, very heavy and thick, and had a lot of overtones of a certain kind. And that was at a particular time in my life, maybe starting from ages 19 to 20, 23 or something. And, you know, he used to say, what am I supposed to do? Sit on a toadstool and just play long tones to try to get, that one sound? He said, can I play two even if I don't have that? And there's not one sound. I don't care how beautiful that sound is. There's not one technique. I don't care how clean it is. Who's going to say whose technique is cleaner? Michel Bacquet's, Scott Hartman, okay, Christian Lindbergh, and you name many other players. Whose technique is cleaner? Whose technique is better? What are we talking about when we're even talking about technique? So this interview, and I believe that people were very sincere in bringing up all the matters that they were talking about. But if we were really going to get to the depth of what actually is going on, it would go way beyond social media. It would go way beyond, everyone wanting to play the latest trombones. It would have to do with this particular age and time in the Earth's history and in human history. And what are the forces at play wanted people to superficially come together instead of celebrating diversity? Isn't this interesting? Because many people think, as I do, it's important to celebrate the extraordinary diversity of life on this planet and human life on this planet, instead of all of a sudden, people coming together and, again, trying to wipe out anything that's not like them. Now, I think that manufacturing, whether it's you're looking at cars or planes or trains or lawnmowers, anything like that, there's a natural aspect of the human being that wants to improve on the functioning of all sorts of machines, especially, men want to do that. It seems like it's more of a masculine thing. Not to limit it to masculine just being in the male form. But there's something about that just want to keep improving the technique in a certain kind of way. And that, as my wife, Dr. Carol Vieira, said, that will want to crowd out the music. That will want to crowd out certain things. Can people still be open to finding equipment that really works for them? Now, a lot of people, of course, do. Not everyone's jumping on the, Shires Edwards bandwagon. And there's nothing wrong with those. Those are fantastic instruments. I picked them, I have a Shires. I got one when they first came out. And I thought, Jesus, this is so much easier in so many ways. Then I go back to my con and go, yeah, but this is something very special. At least something in me that's special. And if I found one of the old Bachs that I played, I'd go, this is great. Let alone my Monette. David Monette built me a horn a long time ago. It has fantastic qualities. So everyone wants to make things better. This is, I think, a part of what the human being can do. But what about the balances? What does it mean to get better? Does everyone sound more and more the same? Were our differences just because there were weaknesses in the equipment we played? Or that the pedagogy was not advanced enough? That's the only differences? I can't buy that. I go back and listen to some of the old great swing recordings. The brass sound phenomenal. Or jazz recordings, they're not playing on the state of the art, which we would consider state of the art equipment right now in technique. How come they can sound so phenomenal? And so distinctive. Now, just because people play a Shires, an Edwards, or the new Courtois, or what's ever happening right now that people are going to, Tynes and some Yamahas, that doesn't mean all these people sound the same on them. Let's face it, they don't. But there will be characteristics that get in there. We want a smooth, even attack, that the body of the sound happens not far after the attack. Yet I can hear Roger Voisin in my mind, who people would probably laugh at his tone right now. Because we get blinded by sound. We get blinded by it. And what we hear over and over again, and we're told this is the way, repetition, the politicians know this, keep repeating something over and over and over again as absolute truth, and enough people through generations will start to believe it. Well, I don't believe it. I believe it's different. I believe it's a stylistic thing according to the times that actually evolved for several different reasons, which is too much to get involved here. So how does this relate to the art of the student? Well, you'll have to listen to video number 7 when I get into that a little bit more. This might have been enough to digest. Thank you, Curtis, for the promotion. A very promotional email. Promoted a lot out of me.